Intro to the cerebral cortex and its functions.
The cerebral cortex is the most prominent part of the brain. It covers the surface of the entire brain. There are about 6 layers of cells within the cerebral cortex.
The corpus callosum connects the left and right hemispheres of the cerebral cortex and allows them to communicate with each other through neurological transmitters. It does this with the white matter that it contains on the inside of corpus callosum. Next, we'll discuss the wrinkles on the brain's surface.
The gyri are the folds that make up the surface of the cerebral cortex. The sulci are the grooves within the cerebral cortex that increase the surface area and increase cognitive ability.
Next, we will be exploring the occipital lobe at the posterior side of the brain.
The occipital lobe contains the primary visual cortex that allows you to perceive sight.
The occipital lobe processes visual information through 2 streams. The first stream is the dorsal stream, which is helpful for object location. This information then goes to the parietal lobe. The next stream is the ventral stream, which is responsible for object recognition. This information then goes to the temporal lobe. Damage to this area can cause cortical blindness, which includes partial or complete blindness when the eyes are seemingly undamaged. The next area we will be exploring is the parietal lobe. Located on the dorsal side of the brain, the parietal lobe contains the primary somatosensory cortex. This is where the sensation of touch is processed. The somatosensory cortex contains 4 bands of cells that receive information from different parts of the body. The parietal lobe also contains muscle stretch receptors and joint receptors. This also helps us with our spatial recognition, which is also located in the parietal lobe. The receptors and the spatial awareness allows us to move around in our environment. Damage to this area, such as optic ataxia, affects hand-to-eye coordination. This is the deep groove that separates the parietal and the frontal lobe, specifically parting the primary somatosensory cortex and the primary motor cortex in the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe, located at the most anterior part of the brain, is responsible for motor movement control. Just as the somatosensory cortex, the motor cortex has localized hemisphere control, with the right hemisphere controlling the left side of the body, and vice versa. Furthermore, it contains the prefrontal cortex, which contains the default network. This controls activities when you don't need to concentrate on them, as well as controls abstract thinking. Daydreaming and thinking about past situations is also localized to your frontal lobe. Damage includes cognitive difficulties with planning, reasoning, and attention, as well as motor problems and emotional instability. Damage to a specific place called Broca's area will cause Broca's aphasia, in which the subject understands speech but cannot produce it.
The temporal lobe contains the primary auditory cortex, which allows us to process auditory information.
The temporal lobe is on the lateral portion of each hemisphere. You can think of it as right under your ears. Particularly, the left temporal lobe contains Wernicke's area. This is an area especially responsible for understanding spoken language. Damage to this area causes the subject to be able to speak language, but will not make sense or have directionality in their words. It also includes the temporoparietal junction that is also responsible for attention, social cognition, and body awareness. Thank you for watching. Hope you learned lots, and don't forget to like and subscribe.